Wakana ia Kamehameha nui mai. Ka hai Hawaii. E ai hui ana au ka hai Hawaii. Only if you're up to the task.
You know what will happen if you are caught.
He will be hung.
I'm here.
Yeah, nice bow tie, yeah. Aloha Aina.
Hawaii.
For joining us.
Ya level ni kalima ka wahe pa Hawaii la Hawaii ke boku o moku la hoi ko la lo ne o waila hoi ko na o waila o ke o oia hoi ha o ke o nui mai he ua kaia e ho vili vili ana e hanu o ia hoi o ke au hanu ke o ke au hoi ha ko nani o ita wani ko la lola o kamauna oia hoi o kamauna oia hoi. Aloha mai kako. Welcome, welcome. The chant you just heard me share was written for King Kamehameha III, and his name is Kauike Auli, meaning placed in the dark sky. And so he was really on this precipice between one world changing and a new world coming in. A modern era ushered in. And he's also the one who uttered the phrase "Uamau ke'eo ka'aina i kapono." The sovereignty of the land is perpetuated in righteousness, which became the motto of this, our first national holiday, which is Sovereignty Restoration Day. And we are very, very excited to welcome our Hawaii's own filmmaker, Tai Sanga, and his short, Hi Hawaii, which is the Hawaiian flag. So wanted to introduce our guest, Tai. Want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, aloha mai kako. I'm Tai Sanga. I'm born and raised on Oahu. I've been a director for maybe a little over 10 years now, making movies here in Hawaii about Hawaii and documentaries and different narratives. Mahalo to Chris and every folks at La Halavai for inviting us to share our story with you folks and to help celebrate La Ho'iho'ia and to share that mo'olelo. So we're really excited for today. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo. So this is part of our ongoing series, the Mauli Ola virtual gatherings. And this has been our New York, Hawaii community response to bring us closer together in this time of coronavirus and so many things happening. So we thank you for joining us. And it's been an experiment in some ways. So today is no exception. So we're gonna do a combination of sharing screen and also sharing links for you to watch on your own, and then invite you to come back to the Zoom and we can continue with our sharing, our offering today. So I'm gonna test this out now and just share a quick clip about more about the holiday. And let me navigate our way for us. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, I need permission. Keololu, Stacy.
Ikalamai, I changed him to be not the host, to be attendee. Now host, yeah? Ikalamai.
Got it. All right, so here's a short clip on our holiday. Here we go. Okay, mahalo. So, is Stacy? Onipa? Our other guest, Laiana, is here.
Oh.
Could we promote him? Yeah, just came in, I think.
I think you may have to because you're host now,
Oh.
yeah?
Oh my gosh. Can I pass it back to you?
Yeah,
Okay. 1 second. Stacy Onipa has been our amazing digital house manager, digital usher, extraordinaire board member. Mahalo nui.
Hi.
And then can you pass it back to me? Aloha Laiana.
Aloha kako, aloha e nā hoa ma New Yorka. Hau'oli e iki ko oko mamaka, a he leo aloha ki ia mai ko Hawaiian pai aina mai.
Maybe a little introduction. Who are you?
Ikino, aloha aina ho'i kako, o wau I hola ke ia o Laiana Kanua Wong, no ka pālama o ahu mai au, I kia maula ke noho nei wau ma Waimanalo o ahu, hana wau ma Kamehameha, he makua kane ke ia o Eha Keiki. So aloha to everybody in New York. My name is Laiana Kanua Wong. I'm happy to be joining each and every one of you. I'm here in Kapalama, and this is where I was born and raised, right down below this area, in my tutu's house, and now residing in Waimanalo with my family. So my wife Cami and I have 4 keiki, and we are very proud and very happy to be a part of this Halavai program. The last time I got to work with Halavai was when we were in New York with Hokulea. And so it was a real honor to get to reconnect now and to do it around our Hi Hawaii and our film Hi Hawaii that Ty really worked hard on. I got to kind of tag in and jump on and support here and there. But so happy to get to be here. And aloha nui Chris, my brother from Kaho'olawe, and Manoa. So good to see you and everybody in Halavai. And Keala Lucero sends his aloha to you as well. I was just with him. We just finished a ceremony right out here. And that's why I get the lepo'o and still in that kind of a buzz right now. But good to see everybody, and aloha nui kako.
I should mention that Laiana was also a producer on this film, Hi Hawaii, and also a language consultant on the picture as well. So mahalo, Laiana, for joining us. So let me see if I can, I'm just gonna break down the little format for how this event is gonna go. So let me see if I can navigate this. Okay, so we're joined by Kumo'olelo Laiana, and we have our first little Kumo'olelo lesson. Laiana, would you like to share just a little bit the word ea?
Yeah, hikino. Our Hawaiian word of the day is ea. Ea, eo. The word ea means life. The word ea means breath. The word ea means sovereignty. It refers to a celebration that happened 177 years ago from tomorrow. And that is the celebration of La Ho'i Ho'i Ea. And that's the holiday we're talking about. But Ea refers to all of those elements. And in the statement of Kawi Keuli at the restoration of this day, when the flag, the Union Jack was lowered and the Hi Hawaii was re-risen, at the church service at Kauaiahao Church, he proclaims, "Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono," where the life, the breath, the sovereignty of the land was preserved through pono actions. And so this word ea is a very powerful word. We're seeing it and hearing it more and more now by our opio, by many in the different types of movements of Aloha Aina. Ea education is like a short term for giving education around Ea and around our Aloha Aina history. But Ea is a powerful word that is so simple, 2 letters, but such powerful meaning behind it.
Mahalo. Exactly. So so this idea of life, breath, and sovereignty is how we're going to flow today. So life, we're going to share the life of the flag and the life of our nation. We'll have a little sharing about that. Breath, we're going to breathe breath into this film. We're going to be sharing the film in the middle section of this flow. And then after the film, we'll invite you to come back and we'll cover this last section of sovereignty, which talks about, images and what are the images we are consuming and how are we creating them, who has ownership of them, how are they being appropriated, all these things. We'll have a deeper dive at the end, and then we'll leave some room for Q&A from our audience out there. So that's just going to be the flow for this gathering. And before we jump into Laiana's, you ready to go with sharing of the flag history.
Yeah, well, do you guys...
Do you need something?
The video?
The clip?
The video?
Yeah. So,
captures most of it in that. And then I can kind of catch the parts that were missing as needed. But I think that's a good amount of info right there. Let me know if you guys got it okay.
Yeah,
and if not, I can run with, I could share screen or...
I have it all queued up for you guys. Just tell me when, yeah?
Oh, mahalo, onipa'a.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see you on the other side of this clip on the Hawaiian flag. It's about 4 minutes.
Something along there.
Okay. Okay, you can play.
I know, Kristen making me host, yeah?
Oh, hold on. Okay.
Loe ka lahui, o wau I hola ke ia o Laiana Kanua Wong no ka pālama o ahu. I kia manawa ke noho nei ma wai manalo me ku ohana. And our High Hawaii has a very special history. Not a lot of people know, but it was created at the request of our mo'i, Kamehameha Iii. And Kamehameha Iii, we always think about him as this amazing war general and battle strategist, but he was also an amazing diplomat and a great thinker and strategist in so many other ways. And as he's engaging with foreign powers coming to Hawaii, he sees these symbols high being flown aboard their ships. And of course, in our traditional times, we didn't have high, but we had symbols that marked significant areas. We had, of course, our kahili. We had, of course, a pulo ulo'u. And even if you go a little bit more rustic, we had la'i, hau, different elements that would just mark special spaces. So he understood this concept of special markings and like kahili in particular, specific to certain ali'i. On his final voyage in 1794, Captain Vancouver gives Kamehameha the Red Ensign. Now the Red Ensign is a flag that has the Union Jack in the upper corner, but the entire field is red. And so it's a unique flag to the British Navy. Kamehameha received this flag. He loves this flag. He sees it as a special gift, a special offering. And he would fly it at his hale, sometimes when he was going to battle, but he had this high. Now once all of the conquest of Hawaii is concluded, and of course, as we know, the Moko Keawe, Hawaii Island unifies Hawaii, and that is why we are called Hawaii today, is because Kamehameha is a Kohala chief, a Hawaii Island chief. Hawaii Island unifies all of our Aina under one. He immediately has our people turn back to the Aina, turn back to the soil, huli kalima I lalo, mahi ai, malama or loko ia. But he also sees the need to build more unity. Now we're not these island chiefdoms, and now we're one Aina, ko Hawaii Aina. And so he wants a symbol created. And so he commissions the High Hawaii to be created. And he has George Beckley, Captain George Beckley, and Captain George Simpson, Alexander Simpson. He has these two advisors help him to create and craft our High Hawaii. And so it's safe to assume that right around 1816 is the origins of the high that we know today. Now, there are different variations in mo'olelo of different color patterns. The number of stripes, sometimes 8, sometimes 9. About 1845, the high is standardized. So now there's no more 9 stripes, 7 stripes. No, everything is gonna be 8 stripes. The flag is gonna be 8 by 16. So it's basically the height and the width. The width is double the height. So our flag is a little bit different than the high that we see today. But they standardize the High Hawaii, and they make that the known flag, and they fly it throughout the Aina. Whenever our ali'i would travel, that would be the high that was taken with them. As we fast forward to now, and we see our beautiful High Hawaii, we need to remember all of these stories, this connections to our ali'i, this connection to our sovereign nation being born, to Kamehameha Iii. But there's a beautiful, in the Nupepa ke Ko'o Hawaii, I think there's one of the most beautiful ways that they captured it. And it goes, he hai ho'ai lona ia, no ka holomua, ka maluhia, ka lokahi, a me ke aloha. And again, translated, our flag represents holomua, or progress. Maluhia, or peace, the wars are done. Lokahi, unity, our lahui is one, as one ohana now. And of course, aloha. Aloha is our superpower. It's what makes us unique. And the flag represents all of those things. So I love that. He hai ho Iolani ia no ka holomua, ka maluhia, ka lokahi, me ke aloha. And you even see, like in our kupuna loved our flag so much. Whenever we see the flag, we should think about the things that make us proud. We are a special lahui. We are a special people. And the hai is a great reminder of Aloha Aina. And that's our superpowers, Aloha and Aloha Aina. And so when we see the hai, think about those things. Aloha ka lahui, o wau I hola ki.
Mahalo nui for that. That was beautiful. I think we have lost our host.
Oh no.
Ikaw mai.
Hola pilikia.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get him back, but thank you. Your program, yeah. So did you want to elaborate on anything that we just saw before we jump into the film?
Sure. That was a short capture by Oha and Mehana Hain, who's one of their lead communication people. She asked more about the history of the High Hawaii, and it wasn't something I had sought out, but I've been slowly having to share more and more about the High Hawaii, and it's always been a passion of mine. I have awesome photos of my kupuna, my tutu them flying the High Hawaii at different rallies from when I was a young child. And so we would always have the High Hawaii, and I always saw it as this important symbol. And so as I matured and got older as a student, that was something I started to want to learn more about. And so slowly been acquiring more and more knowledge and history and understanding of how much our kupuna loved that flag. And that is the flag that was chosen by Kamehameha Iii. And so when we think about our rich history, I think about our mo'i, I think about our ali'i, I think about our lahui. And so in the video, I made one little mistake. I wanted to clarify that because I did that all in one take and they had to trim it down quite a bit. But the two advisors who are credited with helping Kamehameha create the High Hawaii is Captain George Beckley and Captain Alexander Adams. I accidentally said Alexander Simpson in fumbling with my words. But those are the two captains who are assistants and loyal patriots and supporters of the kingdom. And Kamehameha had them as trusted advisors. And so they are the two that are credited with helping Kamehameha create our beautiful High Hawaii. And so I wanted to kind of put that one out there. And then the history is tied to this concept of Aloha Aina. And this Aloha Aina is this deep love and respect of our land, of our communities, of everything that feeds us. But Aloha Aina is also patriotism. And so the high is a strong symbol of patriotism. And I was glad that Mehana then closed with that quote from the Nupepa Ke Ko'o Hawaii. He hai ho'ailona ia no ka holomua, ka maluhia, ka lokahi, a me ke aloha. And that our flag represents holomua, or progress. And if we think about how progressive the Hawaiian kingdom was at that time in adapting, in growing, in becoming a nation, in gaining literacy, in creating a strong education platform, in uplifting our people, we were very progressive. We were very holomua. When we think about the term maluhia, or peace, this was after all of the wars were over. It was now time for our Pai'aina to be unified as one. And so that maluhia, that peace, was also a reference to this flag. Lokahi, that unity. Now we're not all one going and paddling in different directions, but now we're in lokahi, where now we're all moving together as one ohana. So the flag was to represent this oneness of us and not separate kingdoms or chiefdoms. And of course, aloha. And I'm a strong believer that aloha is our superpower. Aloha is what makes us unique. Aloha is very special and powerful. And so those elements really are great terms that can capture what the flag means to our people. And we have so many stories of when our kupuna when the overthrow was happening. Our kupuna were wearing the flag on their lole. Some would want to be, they were quilting the high Hawaii. And some wanted to, when they were sick or when they were going to pass away, they wanted to be buried with their beloved high Hawaii. And so when we think about that connection, this relationship that they had with just this flag, this symbol, they saw it as much more than just a flag. It was something that represented all of those elements. And so I'm glad Oha asked to do that. And so it's a nice, cleaner version of my I give a long 2.5 hour presentation on the flag with the history. It's kind of a lot, but it's a lot of good. I had a whole team helping me, including Nanea Armstrong Waso, who's an amazing researcher. I had Manu Boyd with music and mele and history. Maka'ala Rollins and Pomaikai Benavides also helping to weave the pictures and photos together. But we have a long 2.5 hour PowerPoint. That's a nice 5-minute condensed version of the history of our high.
And I know that's at least one question that I get from people who aren't as connected. So I'm in New York City with everybody else, and people who aren't as connected when they see our high, because I've been marching in our Black Lives Matters protests that have been happening here a couple times a week, and I wear my high and I carry an Onipa'a sign because I feel like that's us in solidarity. And I get a lot of questions about our high and why it is the way it is. And I think this is phenomenal that we put it up front. And I don't doubt that it's a 2-hour presentation, and you, Manud Boyd and everybody else, I believe it could be 4, 5, 6, 8 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it can go longer. We just give it the tip of the iceberg, but it's some people question the symbology or having the Union Jack. That was Kamehameha being such a shrewd and smart diplomat. Why not have the most powerful navy in the world symbol, who's your friends, who's your allies, in the top corner of your new flag as you're creating a new country? So Kamehameha was very forward thinking. He was a great strategist in way more than just warfare. And so the high, that is our symbol. That is our symbol of Aloha Aina. And that is the flag that was re-risen at La Ho'iho'ia when all of the flags were destroyed. Union Jacks were risen in their place. That was the high Hawaii that was re-risen. That is our high. And it's not the red, yellow, and green flag that some may think it is. That is a much more modern flag, and it has symbology and meaning to many people. And we want to respect that for them as well. But the high Hawaii that we know that was established by our mo'i is the high that Chris is wearing on his bow tie, is the high Hawaii that we talk about with the 8 stripes, is the high that Kamehameha created to unify our people, to see it as a symbol of unity and Aloha Aina and love for our land and place.
Hi, well, welcome back, Chris. Yeah, say hello, PE. Wipe your sweat. I know you were panicking. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, little puka there. Brooklyn Wi-Fi. What can I tell you? Hit or miss sometimes. So I just wanted to also invite Ty. I don't know if you guys got to talk a little bit about Iolani Palace as well, just for people who are not familiar with Iolani Palace, and then I think we can move into the feature presentation or the short presentation. So Manao on what is Iolani Palace?
Actually, I want to defer that to Layana. I wonder if Layana, do you want to dive into that history in Mo'olelo?
I can just a little. I will say that it was created by Kalakaua, and he had this vision after traveling the world. Kalakaua, not many know, is the first head of state or the leader of a nation to circumnavigate the globe. And as Kalakaua is traveling around the world, he's seeing these palaces and these important places. He's the first head of state welcomed at the White House. I mean, this is our mo'i, Kalakaua. When he comes home from his world tour, he's inspired to create a palace that would uplift our people, because he felt that the Kingdom of Hawaii is a player amongst the world. It is something to be, and especially the way he was treated everywhere he went around the world. It was with so much respect and hospitality, and even his pin, the Royal Order of the Kamehameha pins, were like the most highly sought after by all of the world leaders because it was such an exclusive pin. And so he's seeing all of these symbols. He sees the palaces of the world, and he wants to create our own palace with some of the motifs that would remind us of our ali'i. So if you look in the palace, there's all of these carvings, engravings of our mea Hawaii. We have kalo, we have kahili, we have all of these elements in the palace. But he brought the best of the world here to display it, to show that we were also at that level. So it was a part of Kalakaua demonstrating that and showing his Aloha Aina after traveling the world and learning about it. And so the palace plays an important role in our history and in our story and in our film, in High Hawaii. The palace is the setting of one of the most important events of our history as a people, where the uplifting of our nation happened, but also at the same place, the stripping away of some of the power. And so the film and Ty will talk more about the film setting at being the palace was such a strategic and important choice. Maybe you can go from there, Ty.
Yeah, thank you, mahalo. I mean, it was definitely important for us to begin our film with the image of the Iolani Palace, to show where our kingdom is. And you know, I created this film because, you know, for the past couple of years, I've been doing a lot of documentaries throughout the Pai'aina, interviewing our people. And every time we'd go back and talk about the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy, you know, there's definitely a lot of pain and sorrow still there, and rightfully so, because, you know, we can't really forget what happened there. But talking to these people, it was almost as if they were trapped in some ways. You know, they were still stuck to that. So, you know, as a group, we wanted to create something that would help us to holomoa, or even just to heal, you know, to allow us to start that process of healing and to sharing our stories. So this short film was this kind of like this spark, this beginning, for people to kind of dive deeper into their history. So yeah, that's a little bit mana'o about that. Love for the folks to watch the film, and then we can kind of jump in and maybe dissect some stuff or explore other concepts and themes.
Awesome, yeah. And I just want to share maybe just a few dates, and then we'll dive into the film itself. So let me just share my screen. Oh, I need to be a host again. It's like football, yeah?
No cat.
Okay. Laiana also coached football in Hawaiian language, Olelo Hawaii. If you want to share a little about that.
Well, a while back, we had the Nakua Anuenue football team, the first and only team, high school team that was completely coached and played all in Olelo Hawaii. Our players were all students of our immersion program, and we took a High Hawaii with us everywhere. Every day we had a High Hawaii on our sidelines, but we chose to use Olelo because Olelo cannot only live in our mea kahiko. Olelo has to live in every realm. And for us, football was a place where our boys are at, our young men were at, and we're hungry for it, we're trying to connect to. And so why not give them the vessel in Olelo Hawaii, and that they can play and continue to do the thing that they wanted to do no matter what, but using Olelo as the kahua and platform. And so that's kind of a little bit of a short, that could be its own thing, but it's kind of not really happening now anymore because there's no team, but it was a start of something really special. And
you were like code talking, like calling plays in Hawaiian language.
It is audibles, the discussion, you know, right at the line of scrimmage, everything was called in Olelo Hawaii. And the coaching from practices to games, everything in Olelo Hawaii.
So this is just one last slide, and then we'll be diving into the film itself. But I think it's important to kind of clarify, differentiate a few things for us. Okay, so we have July 31st, 1843 became Sovereignty Restoration Day, and that's restoration of the Hawaiian Kingdom from the British Empire. The second date, November 28th, 1843, became the Independence Day itself. And we'll be sharing some links after this event in the show notes and in a follow-up email for you know, deeper dive into those events. January 17th, 1893, yeah, was the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. You have November 23rd, 1993 was, oh, excuse me. So the previous date, overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom by the United States, yeah. And then November 23rd, 1993 is the apology bill. President Bill Clinton signed, basically acknowledging that illegal act. And then fall 2018 was when Hi Hawaii was released, the film, right? And
Yeah.
it is, we just want to be clear, this is like a Stanislavski's magical what if, right? So it is a fictional treatment of real events, real emotions. And so this is all in the spirit of restoration. And so we're restoring Hawaiian narratives and Hawaiian voices to our own images, yeah? And so with that, we're going to move on to the film, Hi Hawaii. It's a brief 15, 16 minutes running time.
I believe 17 minutes with credits,
17.
but yeah,
Yeah.
put around there.
So the time now is, so we'll meet about half hour from now. What we're gonna do is share the link to the film, invite you to watch it on your own screen, because it'll probably play smoother, hopefully, on your own screen, less lagging and things like that. And then as soon as the film is over, we invite you to just leave the Zoom on and come right back. And we'll be returning with a Q&A and also take some of your questions as well. So see you in about half an hour. Yeah.
And you passed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mahalo nui. So see everybody about 8:08. Yeah. You should remember that. Yeah. Everybody 8:08.
I think I'm gonna watch it too. Again. All right. Virtual applause for our Hawaiian Chris Nolan. Yeah. So welcome back. I believe we have everyone here now. So I'm gonna dive into the Q&A, and then we'll talk a little bit about the holiday at the end before we take some questions from the audience, because we want to make sure we acknowledge the celebration happening that has happened for 10 years now in New York City and for over a century in Hawaii. So we'll save that after the film questions, which we'll dive into at the moment. Let me see if I can find my questions. Okay, so there's a saying we have that you make a film 3 times. The first time when you write it on the paper, the second time when you actually go out and have to shoot it and deal with the things that are in front of you and the realities of the set. And then you make a film a 3rd time when you go into the cutting room and you're looking at the footage and you're assembling the picture. So they say you make a film 3 times. And Ty and Laiana, could you share with us, each of those stages briefly? How was this journey for you guys of High Hawaii, and how close was it to how you guys envisioned it on paper?
Yeah,
Ken?
mahalo for the question, Chris. It's actually kind of awesome to be able to watch the film again. I haven't seen it in so long, so to be able to watch it for La Ho'eho'ea brings back so much emotions. For this project, every project I work on, it's always very organic. It's a constant collaboration with so many folks. And in many cases, it's like the story telling you what it needs to be. Like I have an idea in my head when you start out. And then when you go through this entire process, it always evolves and changes. And for me, in my how I work as a filmmaker, I'm always flexible in that. I think I get the most satisfaction through that because that's the only way, for me, how I enjoy telling stories. In pre-production, it started off with my collaboration with Oliver Evangelista, who's my co-writer, but he actually wrote the screenplay. We collaborated on the story. And can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I see reading the comments on the side too. And screenwriting is fun because it's really just working in a bubble and trying to construct the narrative as effectively as you can. So we didn't see much changes from what the script is to what the final product, which you guys saw. When we got into production, which is like usually the most exciting part, which involves wardrobe, casting, crew. I get the most energy from that because you get to see what you've imagined on the page, and you get to kind of construct it with a community. And I feel that's important for like our films because it is our community stories that we're telling. So for that, I think it was like a 5-day shoot that we did here in Hawaii throughout the month of March and the month of March. And it was exciting because I got to collaborate with two actors that I've admired and wanted to work with for so long. Kiko Kikumano, who was the main actor. He was someone I had an eye on that I wanted to work on a feature film project many years back. And that project kind of went on hold. So when that happened, we decided to I need to make a short film and showcase his abilities. He's actually in Hawaii Five-0 and also in Aquaman, but there's so much skills that he could do for our storytelling that I wanted to take advantage of that and to showcase what he can do on the other side, So we immediately I casted him for the lead. And then I was a huge fan of Henry Ian Cusick from Lost. He played Desmond many years ago. And his ohana is so generous. Their family still lives here in Hawaii. And when he heard the project, he read the script, he connected to it really deeply because his wahine is Scottish, and they were dealing with the issue of voting for independence many years back.
Scotland, yes. Right.
Scotland, yeah. So he brought a lot of that mana'o and feeling into our film, and he's extremely generous with his time to be able to work with and with the other actors as well. And I don't know, it just like the scene in the we call it the what do we call it, the kind of the back room where all the other actors have was my favorite one to kind of pull across, because it was just showcasing our talents here in Hawaii. Ioani Goodhue, Danny Zalaponi, Al, like they are talented theater actors that have been working so long at it to crafting their skills. So to be able to showcase them on a short film was such a luxury, and it was just enjoyable. Just that process. It was extremely enjoyable. Like
and Lariana, at what stage did you get involved? In the early stage on paper, or later on during production, or all three?
Paper. And this was my first any type of film project to be a part of. And so I really applaud Ty for seeing the vision through. And it's amazing to see it from paper to the actors, to the editing, and to the finished piece. And so many moving parts and so many talented, amazing people who lended their gifts to help make this project happen. But Ty leading it and coordinating it, I mean, it's such a credit to him. It was neat. It was so neat to see it from story to finish film in the can, and helping to we brushed up some of the olelo. So I got to like work with Henry directly one-on-one, and we're in the sound studio practicing some of the olelo Hawaii, and it was like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this right now with this actor. And so mahalo Ty again for this. I mean, just creating these possibilities, and it was a good example that we can tell our stories of that period. It's a good showcase of that because we have so many rich stories that we can tell. But yeah, I see that comment. Henry did a great job with the olelo, and he was such a pro. Like, because even I would say it, and he would say it multiple times in different ways, and he would try to capture the emotion of that word, even as simple as "Wamoa kaka." Is it clear? It was neat to see such a professional to do it. And then even to work with the young talents like Kekoa and Ioane is a classmate of mine, is a schoolmate of mine. So to see him, he's an up-and-coming Hawaiian actor, and we're looking forward to him doing more great things. And Moses, I mean, Moses just an amazing actor in theater and on film. And so Ty put together an amazing cast. And to see it from paper to finish was such a profound thing for me, and a great example of what it is when you keep your mind on something and you work hard towards it, and you have this vision and you craft it and you make it to this beautiful thing that I felt, I mean, such an amazing film. And when we've taken this film to share with students, right, Ty? I mean, that was like the best. Like when you see the students reacting to our character in struggles or in those moments, or like, oh, like he's like not gonna get it, and you're watching them kind of get into it. Oh, that was like the best feeling for me. Seeing our students really enjoying the film and connecting to the film, that was another powerful aspect of seeing this project through. So grateful, amazing.
And could you share a little bit about getting into Iolani Palace, and how was that relation? Because it is a national historic landmark, and film crews can destroy places, locations. So I'm sure there was a lot of care that went into preparing that. And how was that? How did that work?
Yeah, we've actually got a chance to film at Iolani Palace a few times, specifically because we work with Kamehameha schools. But for this project, it was all about creating relationships and building trust. A lot of it is always about building trust. People have been making movies here in Hawaii for so long, and we, when I spoke with them, the folks at the palace, I shared my opinions on on other filmmakers or other film crews, even not from Hawaii or even from Hawaii, that sometimes they disregard, and because they have other priorities in mind, unfortunately. And for me and our group, actually, when we came to it as a group, like we're Hawaii filmmakers wanting to share their story. So building that trust with the palace, having them understand what we're trying to do. It's a deeper kuleana as a Native Hawaiian to be even having the opportunity to film at the palace. I remember on that day, we went through protocols in the morning with the cast and crew, and we had all these roles of what we can and can't do. But just like looking at the other crew members and like, just that feeling that we got, the mana that we got to be able to tell this story and to use that location where our ancestors was lived, with experience they shared their mana in. So a lot of it was letting the palace know that we're here to help tell their story. And we worked very closely with Iolani Palace and Beckley Communications, who handles a lot of their TV filming media side.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a really enjoyable process, and I think as a group of filmmakers, that's what we're trying to do, is just set a protocol on how to film in Hawaii, what the rules are. It's almost as simple as like how you should act as a human being, actually. But I think
because
that
it's something unique to Hawaii is that everything we do with prayer, and filmmaking is no exception. So even more so when you're filming in a historic the Iolani Palace. So that's amazing to hear, and a great example, and so refreshing, because I think Iolani Palace was used in Tears of the Sun. That it was like a Bruce Willis movie, right? It was like a stand-in for a Congan embassy or something. I'm not sure, but nice when the palace can just be the palace, and not have to stand in for something else.
And it's difficult because, as if anybody knows, that when you talk about a film production going to film somewhere, it's asking, basically inviting a small neighborhood to come onto your property, and you're giving them access, and so, for us, we held everybody responsible, from all the crew, from the top all the way down, because they're the ones that's going to be stepping foot in this place. They're the ones that's going to be touching certain things. So thankfully everyone on our crew understood that and was a part of that. And I think everyone at the palace saw that as well.
So Ty, you also lived in Los Angeles for a time, yeah, in California. And did you ever think, like, when you're living there, like, oh, I'm going to be filming at Iolani Palace? And how much of Hawaiian history did you find yourself having to explain to, people in Los Angeles who may not be familiar with Hawaii? How much of that storytelling came up for you while you're living on the mainland?
Yeah, it's kind of awesome being a filmmaker, because you get access to all these places that you've only heard about. And there's a lot of kuleana about that, and so I found that as I'm very fortunate to be able to help share those stories. For when I was living in LA, thankfully I didn't have to share too much about our history. A lot of them, specifically in California, they love Hawaii. A lot of our transplants live in California. Part of my family, like half of my mom's side, basically live all there. It was interesting. I had to actually share more about the history touring this film. When I think last year we got a chance to tour across the states, and that's where it makes sense because we're sharing this film. But that's where I had the most feedback or comments about Hawaiian history. And it's funny, one of the comments was like, after watching the film with a collection of other Hawaii films, someone said like, well, they thought that our film was almost least Hawaiian. And I think part of that is because they just don't know our history. A lot of the times when people think of indigenous films or indigenous cinema, you think of Wakahiko with people in Malo, very traditional or contemporary, where, like in the rural or urban areas, almost poverty porn, domestic violence stuff, you know. So when they saw our film, yeah, it was so interesting. Like it kind of caught me off guard because our film is so Hawaiian, but it's just like that's our responsibility of kind of breaking that identity of what they see who we are. Like we don't fit into that box, and it's our kuleana to help shape that now, and why it's important for us to tell our own stories. It's almost like film sovereignty. You know, we need to keep showing these images because that's you know, we don't expect someone else to tell our history. You know, we need to be the ones to do it.
And Laiana, you hosted the Ho'ea, the Kanaka Mauli Film Showcase. It's a third annual collection of films. Yeah, could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sponsored Ho'ea Film Festival, and you know, La Ho'ea celebrates our restoration of ea of our aupuni, but also our ea in all of these different fronts that we live on and we play in, that we operate in. We have education, we have poetry, we have music, but we needed something for our filmmakers. And it was an idea of Kaliko, Mai'i, Aina Paikai, and Imai Winchester to really start to showcase the talent. So last year we got to show Hai Hawaii at Ho'ea, and it was held at Vai Vai Collective, a little Hawaiian ava bar and gathering place in Mo'ili'ili. And it was such a great success. And then this year we did it online, and we saw, at least in the last that I seen, over 17,000 viewers got to, or at least views, the numbers of views, got to watch our Native Hawaiian filmmakers and the talent that we have. And it's brewing, it's getting better and stronger. And it's an exciting time to see our Native filmmakers in Hawaii rising. And so that was a part of that ea. We wanted to show ea on a different front and in media and storytelling, because that is a form of sovereignty. When we're controlling the narratives, when we're choosing the actors and storylines, and we're doing it in an appropriate, like Ty touched on it perfectly, the whole process of filming, he did it in a pono way, with pule, with intention, with accountability on everybody. That's a very cultural approach to filmmaking. And so we want to showcase that is a possible model, and that we're just getting started, and it's only going to get better and better. The filmmakers coming from Hawaii, the actors and actresses, we already have some big time talent that are from Hawaii. We have Jason Momoa, we have Keanu Reeves, we have, you know, even The Rock, who all have roots to Hawaii, are the three probably hugest actors, you know, in our time right now. And so to think about that we have this potential there, and it's just brewing and growing. It's really exciting to see that.
David Stradhart too, quarter Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk just a little bit about also self-image. You know, I think Kekuni Blaisdell, who helped to revive this holiday in the 80s, understood that a sense of well-being and health came from your idea of yourself and your self-identity, and he knew that sovereignty was a big confidence booster in that sense. Also, you know, to address institutional racism in hospitals and healthcare, and so I think the images that, you know, we are what we eat, and we are what we see as well, the things we consume. And so much of the media is American movies or what have you, pop culture. How much of that kind of influences our young filmmakers today, you think, or yourselves, when you are seeking your own voice and your own self-image and trying to find that, I guess? How do you navigate that for yourselves?
I guess I'll start. You know, it's interesting, and like Laiana brought up that, you know, we have a collection of wonderful, talented Hawaiian filmmakers. So, you know, we've been making movies for the past couple of years, and we noticed a trend that a lot of us, you know, are making films that are completely opposite of the tourism, of the glossy Hawaii. It's almost as if we're creating it as a response to that, you know. And sometimes you just see like either like the violence or the drug abuse, but just trying to find any sense of reality of who we are as Native Hawaiians. I think now we're even like shifting again as our identities is becoming more stronger. A lot of the films you see are almost inspirational, almost as if we're looking for our heroes on screen now. And like a lot of the filmmakers we've been collaborating with are looking towards releasing those type of stories. Growing up, I mean, I'm Hawaiian, Filipino, Chinese. Growing up, like some of my biggest role models on screen was either Bruce Lee or even Mr. Miyagi at certain moments, you know. But those are the people that I connected with because those, like, I saw them as like, oh yeah, those are like cousins or uncles or aunties.
Right.
You know, I've seen them before. So I think for a lot of us filmmakers, we're trying to fill that void now, and continue to share our stories because we have a plethora of stories. And I think it's important that we tell every aspect of Hawaiian identity, you know, like from homelessness to, you know, like the upper echelon Hawaiians that are doing other amazing, wonderful things, you know, because that diversity shows that, you know, we're a rich and vibrant people. So I think it's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, mahalo Tai, and mahalo Chris for bringing up Kauka Kekuni Blaisdell. You know, what a revolutionary, what an amazing man. And he helped to revive our La Ho'iho'ea celebrations in the late 80s. Kauka Kekuni is one of those Aloha Aina patriots. And mahalo for talking about that view of self, that self-image, and how powerful and impactful that is for any young person. But especially for our communities that, you know, it's fair to say that we faced our share of struggles and challenges in knowing who we are in our own lands. And so the role that film can play is something that burns a lasting image in the mind of the viewer. And so we have the opportunity to tell stories from our perspectives, with our talents, with our skills, and uplifting. And so our keiki can see their own heroes, and we can start to see our own storytelling. And it's going to be such a powerful tool that we're just starting to, I mean, we mahalo all of those who've been paving the pathway before us. Now is the time for us to push forward and really celebrate more of our stories, and for our appeal to see and burn some of those positive images of, you know, the struggles, triumphs, and absolute brilliance of our people. And storytelling is just one of the formats. So mahalo for referencing that, because that is a big reason why I wanted to jump on and help with this project. Was one, it was about the High Hawaii, but two, it would help to leave a positive impact on that whole a very weird time of the overthrow and the annexation. We kind of changed the narrative and flipped it towards us, even though it's right. I mean, like, we're taking control of the alternate reality, and at least saying that we kept the flag for our people and we didn't let that get destroyed. And so it's a model, but there's so much more that can happen, that can come up, that can uplift and inspire, that people can see we're much more than coconut bras and grass shacks. We are a rich, diverse culture that took the best from all over the world and valued those things as well, but made sure that we were still who we were, and we respected people from all over the world. And that's another important aspect of Kanaka and Aloha Aina, and is respecting our Kanaka, whether you koko or not. It was having that aloha, and if you have a respect for Hawaii, hey, you can be with us, you know. And our kupuna showed that, and being very holomua, very progressive in how our government was run in those times when racism was just the norm around the world.
Exactly, and mahalo Laiana, because it's even more resonant with the killing of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, you know, the pandemic and the inequalities. All these things are getting exposed, and I think with the U.S. also in Yemen and you know, empire. So I think this holiday is significant also because it is an incredible demonstration of peace and anti-imperialism. And so it's really a global holiday in that sense, not just for Hawaii. So Mahalo. And I just want to share a few images and a shout out to our New York Ohana, who have joined us every year. This year, you know, COVID, but just share a little, some photos from gatherings past. So big aloha to Hui Nauiwi, NYC. And as you can see, usually every year we have a get together. And it's been wonderful. You know, and let's see, we'll go to the very first one. Oh, this is 2010. It was a great way to just educate as well. Here we go, kind of Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Every year is different. We had small gatherings, big gatherings, but we always made it special, you know. The Ava. Let's see. I think this is our very first one in 2009. So here we go. Yeah. You know, and we would just start conversations. People come by, they want to know what's going on. Got a Jared.
Yeah.
With the Hawaiian Superman here. Yeah.
Well, it means a lot to see Lahoi being celebrated like all the way in New York, and that's so special, Chris, and to this whole Na'oiwi and Halavai for organizing that. Mahalo nui, because that makes it more legit. That's how our kupuna celebrated it. They had it all over the Pai Aina. And if Kanaka are living abroad, why not celebrate it there too? So mahalo nui for uplifting and sharing about these national holidays. These are huge parts of our history that were hidden from us. And that was a strategic plan by the government that was in power here, who was working with America to obliterate and denationalize our people.
Right.
That was hiding those kind of holidays in history. So you guys are doing a big part by sharing it with those abroad who are curious, who have interest, who want to learn more. So mahalo nui for that. So it's great to see those images. Mahalo.
Mahalo, because it was a way for me to be closer to home too, living far away. And then to think, you know, hey, we're here in New York City, and such an international city. You know, every people's represented. So it's a world stage, and why not share this holiday with the world? So it's been incredible every year to gather. And so I first celebrated La Jolla in New York, and I didn't get to Thomas Square until years later when I made it home. And you know, I got to connect with Kekuni, and I shared with him like, oh yeah, every year we celebrate La Jolla in New York. And he got so excited. He was like, that's where you should be celebrating. And so it was such a special moment to share with him. So yeah, it continues. The EA continues. So I think, let me check my notes here. I think we can open it up to questions from our audience who are still with us. And Stacy, you can help us catch us up on some of the questions we might have missed in the chat.
We did have a question about some of the other folks. Maybe if you can go over and highlight some of the people who helped with the film that maybe aren't on screen, but might be behind the screen, that are from Hawaii and that are making their strides, just like how you are, Ty, in the filmmaking industry.
Yeah, that kind of goes to our question we didn't get to earlier about I guess the landscape in Hawaii, how that's changing. You have Pacific Islanders in Communication, OEV TV, Pacific Network. How are platforms helping to democratize film distribution? And I guess, yeah, if you could share about the other talents on your crew as well, from production design, yeah.
We collaborate with a ton of wonderful people on our film. Greg Doy, he's been a wonderful producer. He was actually the DP on this project, but we've collaborated on countless projects with Kiala Lucero for Kamehameha Schools and Caleb Lucero. So these guys, you know, they have most of the experience I've gained was from working on, you know, Hawaii Five-0 Magnum PI and bigger productions. So a lot of the people that jumped onto our short film was more of like the Hawaiians on those big projects that like wanted to finally tell something worthwhile. You know, all these big productions allow them to like sharpen their tools, learn the process, learn structure, you know, find how the wheel is made. But for them, this short film was more of a passion project, you know. So I leaned on them heavily to be able to, because this is an ambitious short film. We did with underwater scenes, you know, with,
yeah.
Shooting at the palace, shooting at multiple locations, you know, all in 5 days. So to be able to have an experienced crew to be able to lean on was such a relief for me, because, you know, I can finally release the reins on the logistical side, you know, and just focus on creative. And so, you know, there's also Peggy Kroc, who was our wardrobes, she's actually retired. She lives in Hawaii, and she mostly does wardrobes for Kumakohua Theater, a lot of like the missions homes, you know, all those wardrobes. She has just a ton of collections at her home. So to be able to collaborate with her on this film, she actually, the dress that Danny is wearing, which is Hoku in the film, she sewed that with her partner. They did that by hand from scratch. You know, so to be able to finally showcase those skills, yeah, was so much fun. Who else is there in this? There's so much people. Can't remember right now. I saw a note about the music. We collaborated with Christopher Ahn and Aaron Custer. The two of them, that they don't live in Hawaii now because, you know, the music scene is out in the mainland. But it was so much fun collaborating with them on the score, because I actually had something else in mind. And when they came back with the piece, it almost made it a little bit more Hollywoodish in a sense, because it was genre-esque in certain areas, but it elevated the movie, specifically in the heist section. You know, it added that tension that the film needed. So yeah, there's a lot of people, a lot of hands that was on board on this project, and I'm extremely grateful that, you know, you could tell everyone worked so hard.
We have a question in the chat. Mahalo nui loa for the film and all your mana'o ho'i ho'i. What is your next project? And of course, we're dealing with the COVID reality, so we understand some things are in the development stage. Yeah,
you know, COVID has allowed us to kind of help start hunkering down and focusing on big projects, you know, on the script side. So I'm currently developing, actually I have I have so much projects.
Slate.
But something that kind of moved up was, I have this project that I'm working on, that we created a treatment and we're moving over to the script form, is about the colonists. It's the Panala'au, the folks, the Native Hawaiians that was sent out to Line Island right before the war, World War II, and was left abandoned there. 4 young men was left on the island, and 2 of them actually lost their lives living on this island. and they were there sent by the U.S. government to kind of do weather reports and scientific tests. So we're working on this feature film about these men who kind of they've sacrificed their lives for our well-beings. And it was a story that's basically hidden. The government didn't want to share this story, and it was only found out a few years ago, maybe in 2010, 2009. Noel Kahanu found old journals about them. So I'm collaborating with her on this project. Actually, I wanted to tell that story because it's a more smaller, intimate narrative. Explore that that personal side, that personal story of sacrifice and longing for home, which is what these men did. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow, amazing. And Layana, you're collaborating as well, yeah, and things are coming up for you.
We're working on the film Hawaiian Soul about George Helm, and really excited about that coming together, and it's in the finishing process. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to air it and show it. It's just such a different time. We may do some virtual kind of things, but that's our lead is Aina Paikai and Kaliko Mai'i, and many other talented Kanaka and Hoa Aloha Aina putting that film together. The story of George Helm, and not a real intense political part, but him finding his voice and using his voice to connect to people, and using his charisma and his powers to bring people in and listen in to why we need to stop the bombing of Kaho'olawe. So that's a really exciting project in the works. And
for those who don't know, who's George Helm?
George Helm is one of our he's who we consider one of our Aloha Aina patriots who gave his life for the protection of Kaho'olawe. He was one of the original to land there illegally when the U.S. Navy was still bombing and occupying Kaho'olawe. He is also the leader and the founder of the Protect Kaho'olawe Association, later on the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana. And he tragically loses his life on Kaho'olawe returning to Maui. And there's a lot of, not clarity about that and how that happened. But he was also an amazing musician, and he would use his platform as a musician and his voice to captivate people and then to tell them the story of what was going on in Kaho'olawe. So kind of using his tools and his gifts to connect with the community and the people. So that's an exciting project that we're looking forward to coming out soon.
Amazing. And I think there's some social media they can keep in touch with, yeah? Hawaiian Soul movie or Hawaiian Soul? Hawaiian Soul movie.
Yeah, I'm sure we can pull it up. We also have a Hawaiian Soul Instagram page as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely share that in the show notes. I see an older question. Please talk about filming inside the palace. Were there any chicken skin moments or some things?
Chicken skin moments. Honestly, the biggest thing that we took away as a crew is just the access that we got into the palace. We were able to film from the basement all the way to the rooftop. We even had access to the tower, actually, which was quite frightening because it's such a small little space where the flag actually gets risen and lowered. So we knew we couldn't film on top of there just for safety wise. So we decided to just film on the roof. But just to be able to see this building that our ali'i built, it was kind of amazing for a lot of us. It's like we look at it with reverence. So to be able to kind of walk into all of these different places of the palace that you're not allowed to see was exciting for us. And we spent I think we spent 2 days filming at the palace. One day was for exterior, all the outdoor stuff, and the second day was all the interior. And we kept it very because of the rules. We kept it very minimal. We didn't want too many people on the set. Everyone was in very close quarters. Think our equipment was all covered. But just to be there was such a wonderful experience. We had the option to because you're not supposed to wear your shoes inside the palace, yeah. So you could wear either booties or go barefoot. And so a lot of some of our crew decided to go barefoot so that we can, have our feet actually touch the ground, it was awesome. Yeah.
We have a comment from Deb McHugh. I love the curiosity of our ancestors. And I think curiosity kind of leads us to these places that we never thought we'd be in, yeah? Like Iolani Palace. I think curiosity is a good thing in that way. You have any more questions from our audience? This has been a great extended session into our holiday. I should say that when I first moved to New York, I didn't know there were any Hawaiians or Hawaii people in New York. I just kind of arrived, and then my friend Jackie texted me and it's like, "Oh, I was in this movie Plastic Lays, and it's going to be playing at a film festival in New York. So I'm coming to New York to visit you." So shout out to Jackie. But the director of that film was Tai Sanga. So how did that come about? And actually, it played at the Pacifica, which was a program part of the Hawaii Culture Foundation, which that turned into Halavai. So before there was Halavai, it was actually Hawaii Culture Foundation with.
That's nice history to learn. I didn't know that. Yeah, that project. That project I created right when I was in undergraduate school here at Manoa. I think it was one of my last films I made at ACM, the Academy for Creative Media. And the reason why there's so much filmmakers here in Hawaii now is because of these, UH and ACM. They showed us that there's a possibility that we could tell our own stories. One of my biggest mentors was Marata Mito, who was a teacher there at ACM. And so one of the films that she kind of helped guide through was Plastic Lays, and that I, as a college student, that toured the United States festivals, which was really exciting, because then it showed me that people were hungry to see our films, local or non-local. That was, what was that, 2006, almost 2005? I can't even remember. So to be able to tour that, I think the Pinky documentary also screened in New York, if I can remember correctly. So I had a few films that screened there. I haven't had a chance to attend any of the screenings yet, which I'm looking forward to one day doing. But yeah, it's just so great to finally share our stories out there.
Awesome! It's amazing to see.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot before I gotta be remiss. That I need a shout out that I'm also doing Family Ingredients. We're working on season 3 right now. So that should be coming out hopefully this fall, which is a food travel show that I do with Heather Juni and Renee Stewart, with our host Ed Kenny, which is we find a guest from Hawaii. We ask them what their favorite dish is, and we trace them back to their homelands. So this year we have an interesting amount of guests, and we're trying to do what we can within this COVID era. So it might be a brief season, but that's something that I have coming up next. Actually more immediate than later. Yeah.
Oh, and where can they find this?
That's actually, every state is different because it's actually through PBS. So we've done 2 seasons already, and the season 3 should be coming out sometime soon. But we've traveled everywhere from the Philippines to Tahiti. With Tahiti, we followed our Va'a history, and we traced Maui Tautaha's lineage there back home. We went to Puerto Rico. So the show kind of dives into our immigration history, and what kind of sums up what Hawaii is. And then we do it, our access is through food, since we're kind of referencing Kumikekuni Blaisdell earlier about the importance of me'ai and our food, and how when you share your food with someone, you share your history, you share your culture, You share your stories with them. So that's what our kind of our premise of the show is.
Awesome, Maikai. So yeah, we'll share all these links in our show notes. And Kumulayana, is there maybe an oli appropriate that we can close out with, and we'll say aloha and e mau ke ea?
Yeah, I'll do one that is one about bringing forward more life. Ai ai kau ke ha kahalia ke aloha ke ave mana o ke kini o luna e hea mai ana ka leo polole e hoi e pili me hihi manu me manula no ka ua e a kepa nei e vili nei I luna o ka lau luhe ke oho ke kuku I ma ele kaua na ku kaua o ka we ka moana olo ke pi olo ke ka leo ka palila kuku ka e huo ka ua I ka nahele e ka papa na I ke alo mauna kea ka ua ho o kina ho o ki kina ka leo ka palulu ka palili o ka makani o ka makani lule ua lu ala ka nahele ai o ka nahele po ai ia na kalani kaui ke auli ke ola ala a oia e au e na nei e helele I ka ua poulu ka aina poulu ka la hui e ola ka la hui Hawaii.
Mahalo. So there you have it. Life, breath, and sovereignty, ea. And be sure to keep up with us on the social medias, Halavai NYC, and we'll be sharing some follow-up links to you in the email to follow. So mahalo everyone, mahalo Tai Sangha, Kumulayana, everyone out there for joining us. Aloha Kaina Kenga, if you're there, Nauivi NYC, and our friends in Honolulu. Have a great
Mahalo.
la hoi hoi ea.
Oh, aloha la hoi hoi ea. Malama pono kako.
Malama pono.
Malama pono, everybody, and mahalo nui for joining us again at Halavai's Mauli Ola virtual gathering. Appreciate so much Tai and Leana. As mentioned before, we will be taking a program break in August, so stay tuned at halavai.org, or you can join us at Halavai NYC on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to get all of our updates. And you can go to also the halavai.org, the Mauli Ola gatherings, excuse me, to get more information, as mentioned here. All of the links, all of the information for our wonderful guests, future projects and past projects will be up there, as well as all the recording of this session. So mahalo nui, malama poni, ana hui ho.
Oi ho.
Oha.
Aloha.